thankful for my bed. I'm thankful for the sky, 'cause nothing is forever.
Hi, everybody. Karen Schaal, Gratitude Gal, and welcome to PsychNews Podcast. And a special thanks to Stefan Leipum with our intro song, Blessed, all the way from Germany. Today, we're going to be talking about living by default. You know what that is, just kind of letting things slide, maybe one too many times around the lazy river. It's a really fun topic, and I think you're going to be surprised at what we find out.
Living this life to learn and grow. But before I'm returning home, I'm becoming my greatest version, though. I'm thankful for my breath. I'm thankful for this mic. I'm thankful for everything that I have in my life. I feel blessed. Damn right, I feel blessed.
So what are we talking here about living by default? Harvard psychologists have done some research, and so I'm getting some information here today from a March 25th article, 2018, and it's from Success Magazine, and it's talking about living by default. They're talking about that living by default is basically an evolutionary response, that when your brain is in overload, you kind of just shut down. So living by default in that way is a very good thing. But what has happened, and it's so sad, in our modern society is that somehow we've gotten to the point where we're living in default all the time. Harvard study, 3,000 people, 96% of the 3,000 people admitted living on autopilot, living by default. Now, granted, these were interviewees from Success Magazine. I'm sure that they were people in business, successful. And I think that most of us can admit, of course, daydreaming. How often do we sit in the car and our mind, we don't even know how we got sometimes to a certain location. So there's a good thing about this sometimes. Just kind of having a wandering mind. This same study says that most people probably spend approximately 47% of their day not being aware of what's happening. And so all fun and game aside here, taking things easy, ha, ha, ha. Living by default is actually robbing us, our children, our nation of time, of energy, of creativity. It's very sad. And, it's pretty much like lukewarm, right? When I grew up, being lukewarm was like the bad thing. That's pretty much living by default. So I want to go back to the article now. I like to give everybody articles. It gives you something to bite into. And I put this onto our Positive Online Psychology website, so you can go ahead and read this article yourself. So this article is telling us about the 10 ways that you can figure out or find out that you're living by default. But let's be honest, I think that if we, really looked at our lives, we could probably figure out how much we are. Now, most of you know that this is day 40 of my public year with gratitude. And so living by default to me, trying to get out of procrastination and really stepping forward with intent, this topic has importance to me. So let's go ahead and let's look at and see what the authors. And again, these are Harvard psychologists. Matthew Killingsworth and Daniel Gilbert. And so basically, number one is they think that if you are living by default, you're probably going to dread getting up in the morning. I can attest to that. When you begin to just kind of go down the river, go the path of least resistance with a lot of important things in your life, you just don't want to do them. Feels hard, feels overwhelming, it hurts. Your daily routine is predictable. Now, I'm a person that thinks if your daily routine is predictable, then hey, you're doing a good thing. I think what they're saying here is that you're in a rut. So you're not getting out and breaking through patterns that may not be serving you to your best. And you do things without thinking. And this is a big one. If you think about it, how many times do you listen to someone and halfway through the conversation, you're just waiting to get in there and tell them what you think? How often do you find yourself just reacting to someone without any thought behind the reaction? These are symptoms of living by default. These are old habits. You're just using them. They're like old tires. They should have been thrown out a long time ago. And I can say all this because I know I lived this for decades. Number 4. So what we have here is you dread the day ahead. Your daily routine is predictable. Again, this is more of a rut than actually having a good routine, like a sacred schedule, like Tanya Dotson-Winkler is recommending. You can't seem to put your phone down. Number 4, well, that's a distraction. So let's talk about distractions and this whole living by default. I would probably say that our distractions are probably one of the biggest reasons that we live so far away from, in touch with the nuances of what life is. Distractions with the phone, distractions with television, distractions with something that makes it easier for us to get through things. So possibly we don't have to feel, we don't have to make so many decisions. Living by default, unfortunately, makes us lazy. And when we become lazy with our life, we lose so many opportunities and so much richness that we could be enjoying. It's the greatest gift we have is time. And living by default is pretty much a slap in time's face. It's not an easy thing to change, but remember, I'll give you a real good tip at the very end. Number 5 is you stay deep in thought. I think a lot. I think what they're saying here is basically you just kind of, what's their term here? They used to say it when we were kids. Daydreaming, that's it. I used to daydream all the time in school. I used to look out the window and do all that kind of stuff. So I think I was probably trying to be happy and look outside and look at the rain and all that. But when you do that a lot, it's taking you away from really the experiences of what life is about. And I think that's what my goal here is. I'm all about gratitude, but living a full life is just like, it's the cat's meow. It's the best. Living a full life is a lot of fun. Oh, number 7 is you can't seem to let go. You do what's familiar even though it doesn't serve you anymore. for example, you keep the same unmotivated and unambitious people around, stay in the same career, hold on to things you've outgrown, live in the same old place, and do things that don't inspire you because you're used to it. Ouch. I mean, I know that all of us, unless we're like some super duper achiever, can identify with at least one of those things. Painfully so sometimes. Number 8, no surprise. I'm in TV land. I'm living by default. I'm somewhere else. I'm hoping that things will go away. Maybe people won't call me so I can commit. Oh, please don't, right? And number 8 is you're not making meaningful progress. No surprise here. One thing that I've learned, and this is a big deal, I've had some success here in my 40 days. I know what it feels like to have a bit of success. I don't quite know what it feels like to be totally prepared for things, but I'm learning. But these little tiny pieces of success, and also my extreme desire and motivation to share what I've been doing with all of you. But these little itty bitty pieces of success really help to spur and to keep me going. So, number 8, you're not making meaningful progress. If you're living by default, you're just really hoping that the knock on the door is not for you, that the phone call coming in is maybe the wrong number. You get what I mean. Life can be tough, and if you're not used to living it, it's really easy to sit on the sidelines. And I'm saying don't. Come out to play. It's a wonderful, wonderful place. Gratitude, the practice of gratitude. Gratitude invited me to the playground, and I listened, and it's made all the difference. Okay, number 9, this is a big deal. We hear this all the time. Maybe you say yes more than you say no. Maybe you're doing things that you don't want to do out of obligation. You know, your whole life is, I have to do that again. Oh, that charity event's coming up again. Oh, this. It's just one big grumble. Are you getting the sense that this is a lot of, I don't want to be bothered? Can you imagine? Look at this scenario. I open my door, a big, beautiful door, and there in front of me, I don't even care what it looks like, but somebody says to me, here's your life. In all of its abundance, in all of its glory and blooming and blossoming and all that good stuff. And in the background, I hear something playing on the TV. I've got some food in there that I need to finish. I've got a crossword puzzle. I've got a novel that I want to read. I've got some puttering that I want to do. And I shut the door. It doesn't sound right, does it? Doesn't feel right, does it? And that's kind of what we're doing when we're living by default. Number 10, you know there's a better life to be lived. I think we all know that. I think the grumpiness, the anger, the unhappiness that people experience is basically them just wanting to have a fuller life and not quite knowing how to get there. And I get that. So that's 1 through 10. One of these things I wanted to mention something to you, and this is about paying attention. And this was a painful realization, but maybe this will really bring this living by default, letting things go, just waiting. Oh, it'll be all right. I'll do it next week. Next week becomes next year. Next year becomes next decade. And all of a sudden, your life is over. And even when you want to open that door, you're going to have to walk out there to get your life. The sooner you open the door and get going on it, the easier it's going to be. But I want to talk about memories to a point and being present. Everybody's all about being present, being mindful. And I raised children and moms, dads, caretakers. You guys all know what it's like, multitasking. You know, now everybody puts their kids in front of media devices. In my day, we didn't have that. But we find ourselves not being present with our children. And now your kids are coming up to you and saying, oh, do you remember this and this? And you go, no. And the reason that you don't remember it necessarily is because you weren't present. You were probably just going down the lazy river. And the sad thing about that is you miss it the first time. And then when you try to recall it again, you miss it again. When that happened to me the first time, it made me sad. But that's okay because I really work hard on being present and not going down the lazy river unless I really intentionally want to. So I'm going to give everybody a tip. I have to laugh. A tip, huh? And, you know, it's part of my 3-step process, paying attention with a sense of gratitude. Remember, most everything is incremental change, and be patient with yourself. So if you think you're stuck, oh my goodness, stuck. I know, stuck. Living by default stuck feels really stuck. And so a little wiggle tool I can give you is to pay attention with a sense of gratitude. And so you say, well, how do I do that? Well, when you wake up in the morning, if you have an alarm clock and it has a dial, check out how it works. Do you ever think about how the clock was actually designed in the first place? What would you do if you didn't have a clock? Start looking around with the goal of appreciating, of seeking out things to be thankful for. And that's the beginning of not living in default. Well, so remember now, this article is Success Magazine, 10 Signs You're Living on Autopilot. And that is March 28th, 2018. Oh, wow, we're in 2019. Oh, my goodness. Okay, Success Magazine. So I appreciate all of you being here with me. I'm here because I care. I'm so excited that I'm not living in default anymore. And I wish you and all of yours the very same. So this is Karen Schaal, Gratitude Gal, signing off from PsychNews Podcast. Until next time, let's all be the very best we can be. Let's all be grateful. Until next time, bye-bye. I'm still waving. Bye-bye.
That's why I'm writing this letter. See, gratitude's a high frequency and thus it'll make us feel better. I'm thankful for my health. I'm thankful for this day. I'm thankful I can smell. I'm thankful I can taste. I'm thankful for my family. I'm thankful for the wind. See, I don't take things for granted. I'm grateful for all things, cause things didn't have to be this way. So I acknowledge and appreciate everything that's happening to me until I'm ready to leave this place. And that's real, we are eternal souls, living this life to learn and grow. But before I'm returning home, I'm becoming my greatest version though. I'm thankful for my breath, I'm thankful for this mic, I'm thankful for everything that I have in my life.